have a good death, we have to have a good life. I often talk with clients about legacy. What is the legacy that we want to leave? And as entrepreneur, we became entrepreneur because we want to make a difference. We want to have an impact. Hence, we want to leave a legacy. Now, a legacy is so much greater than the business that we're going to be. It's so much greater than how we help clients. Is how do we make people feel? How did we make our clients feel, our family feel, our friends feel? What are we leaving behind? So this week we are speaking with Lea Brovedani, who is an end-of-life doula. She really helps people make a life plan, really planning their death. So first of all, we can stop the stigma about death. Death is a beautiful thing. For me, death is like a celebration of life, but also understand that when I plan my death, I'm also by default planning the life that I want to live. Let's go to my interview. Thank you so much again for accepting my invitation.
I'm happy to be here with you, Sara.
We always have beautiful, beautiful conversation. And I love the space where you are. But before we talk about living life and everything that comes with it, could you explain us, what is an end-of-life doula?
You know, when I first started doing some research, I had never heard of an end-of-life doula, also called a death doula. I think end-of-life sounds a little bit easier to take.
Yes.
But when you think of a doula, we always think of the birth. And when you think of a birth doula, it's someone who sets the stage and does everything so that you have the best possible outcome for the birth of this child. Mm. And so they're not the midwife, they're not the doctors, they don't administer that, but they take care of all of the situations and get all of the planning so that the mother can have this very safe, lovely birth. Well, an end-of-life doula does the same. So an end-of-life doula makes sure that all of the things that a person wants at the end of their life are set up. So everything from arranging for a nurse to administer shots, if that's what they need to do, to setting the stage for where the death is actually going to take place, or for working with the person, who do you want to have with you? Mm-hmm. You know, and here's like some interesting little things that I think it's between 75 and 95% of people want to die at home, and less than 25% do. Oh. And the reason for that, if you would just think that a young mother, if you said, so what are your plans? You know, it's obvious you're going to have a baby. And she said, yes, I'm going to have a home birth. Well, what have you done to arrange for that? Well, it's going to happen anyways. It's, you know, nothing. But in the same regard, that's kind of the attitude that a lot of people have at the end of life. If you want to have this beautiful experience with people surrounding you that you love and to die at home, then you need to make arrangements. Is your room big enough? If you want to have 5 people around you, is your room big enough to actually hold 5 people? I mean, there's some practical things. I've had people say, yes, I want to be propped up in bed, looking out over my garden, and saying, so do you have a bed that adjusts? I mean, I can get really practical. It's like, yeah. Oh, well, no, but, well, so everything from arranging who's going to be there to writing like the last best 3 months. So everything from mental, physical, spiritual, practical, emotional, like what are all of the things that need to be done in order for this beautiful moment to occur, not just for you, but for the people that you love.
I love this because life is from the first to the last breath.
Yes.
And if there's anything, I know the pandemic was not easy, but there's gifts in there. And one of the gifts that I find is that people now, they see how life is precious and want to live life fully instead of being on the treadmill of life, being more intentional with it. Because whatever we're going to stay in that last moment with ourselves, we're walking towards that today.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There's one thing that you do, and I find it fascinating with the frame that you walk people with through is an end of life plan.
Yes. Yeah.
Can you talk about that, please?
That is such a gift for the person because all of a sudden it gives them the opportunity to pause and say, so if I said to you, Sarah, if you were given a diagnosis at this moment, exactly where you are in this stage in your life, everything is exactly the same, that you have 3 months to live. How do you want to spend those last 3 months? And we can do everything from emotionally, how do you want to feel? And then set the stage, like create that plan so that that's a possibility. Physically, what are the things? And we know that there is, you know, as part of my job is to educate people about all the stages of death. What's going to happen with your body? What are the things that you're going to go through? So you're prepared. So you know exactly what you can do in this moment. And when it gets to the next stage, what do you have to have planned? So, I mean, that's part of it. But being able to physically look at, let's make sure that we've got everything planned out so that you're taken care of, that you can relax. I had told you earlier that a friend of mine, and she has some medical conditions. And when we started talking about it, I said, where are you as far as your fear of death? And she was at an 8 or a 9 out of a 10. But being able to have this plan and knowing exactly what was going to happen. Now she was at, how do you feel, you know, as far as if something were to happen and you were to die? She said, I'm at a 3. I'm not afraid anymore. So that's part of it. But it's planning out all of them, mental, emotional, physical, practical, all of it.
And am I right in thinking that if my death is planned, I live more?
Yes. Yeah. Because all of a sudden, you know, I think we all have this belief, well, everybody else is going to die, but I'm not going to. I'm special. That's something that happens to
other people.
Yeah. Yeah. Death happens to other people. Well, you know, guess what? It happens to all of us.
Yes.
And the difference between, you know, and so maybe it's an oxymoron between a bad death and a good death is a good death to me is someone who dies with peace and with people that are celebrating their life. And yeah, just something simple. Like one of the people that I worked with, I said, so is there something that you want to do as far as leaving a legacy? And she said, yes, I've got about 50 VHS tapes that I've done of my family over the years. And I'd like to give everyone like a private kind of movie for them. And I said, okay, so how many hours is on each of those VHS tapes? Like I can get this practical. And she said, oh, it's about 6 to 8 hours worth of material. And I said, and you've got 50. So now you're looking at solid, like 300 hours of viewing before you even start doing the cuts and making them into a movie. is this how you want to spend your last precious days? And she went, no. I said, okay, so let's work with that. And we came up with another plan. But, leaving a legacy, even getting into that, like, what is it that you want people to think about you? What is it, Sara, at the end of, let's look and say, when someone says, oh, that's Sara Gilbert, she was, what do you want them to say?
She gave it everything she got. She gave it everything she got. Yeah.
And look at, you're going to Costa Rica, like, you live what you say, you live what you tell others to do. And that's beautiful.
Yes. And I hope that, and I'm glad that we're having this conversation. I talk about death with my clients regularly. We were talking before, 2 books that really impacted me were The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying and The Power of Regrets. Because whatever we want people to think about us, then we need to be doing it now.
Yes. Yeah.
And this is why, like, oh, someday we'll do this. One day I'll take the risk. One day, at some point I'll be happy. And it's like, no, it's now, because the legacy, we are building it every single day.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a matter of choices too, because my husband and I've done a lot of travel, and I have a brother who said, oh, well, that's because, and Rick's done really well. That's because you have all of this money. And no, we traveled when we didn't have any. It was a choice. So sometimes it was a choice between, okay, well, we could go to a movie tonight and that's going to cost us this much. Or if we want to explore, like, one of the joys that we had was exploring the world. If we save for a year, it's amazing how much you can save. And it's amazing how you can see parts of the world that isn't ridiculously expensive.
True. So living your best life, is there step-by-step?
Living your best life? I think the first step, if we were, I hadn't thought of that, but that's interesting. But I think you and I both would probably agree with this. The first thing you need to do is recognize what that is for you. So if you don't know what your best life is, if you don't have a plan, like, this is how I want to live, you just go from day to day to day without thinking about it. Like, you have to live life consciously.
Yes. I often say, everywhere in our life, we plan everything. We plan the end. If we're building a house, we know how many rooms, we know where the kitchen is going to be. We know everything, even to, like, the color of the wall and where the furniture is going to be. Like, everything that we do in life, we plan it of how do we want it to look at the end, except life.
Yeah.
So if I want to live my best life, I need to be aware of, what does it mean for me?
Yeah. And, it can be even exploring in, and I really appreciate how financially there are so many different levels for everybody. Mm-hmm. But even people who don't have a nickel can explore the area they're in a way that they never explored it before. Living life is just exploring and being curious. What is it that, this is where I am. What can I explore that brings me joy? What can I learn from somebody that opens my mind a bit more?
I'll add to that. How can I contribute?
Yeah.
How can I help?
Yeah.
But I like how you said it. Like, start with what's important for you. What does it mean for you? Like, an exercise that I give sometimes to clients is to write the eulogy at the end. The text that's being read at your funeral. It's like, people are like, you want me to write that? And I'm like, yes, because whatever you do today, it's contributing to that. And there's often a mismatch between what I want people to say and what am I doing now?
Yes. Yeah.
I want them to say that I was a present father, mother, but you're working 80 hours a week. So we see how that disconnect is, and people get to the end and they're like, oh, but I want to make it up, but you can't.
Yeah. Yeah. And when I've done similar classes where I've talked to people and said, what, you know, even say, what is the most important aspects of your life? What are the things that are the most important to you? And when people have said to me, well, my family is, and I've said, so how do you show your family that they're important to you? And they say, well, I make sure that I support them really well, and I'm able to earn a really good living and put food on the table. And I've said, that's really important. What would your family say?
Yeah.
Well, they'd be grateful. I'd say, would they say that you would, you know, and then just asking the questions and getting them to a point. Yes, that's really important. And yes, you're doing a great job. And I'm not undermining that at all. And take those times, even if it's at night, where all social media is off, and you just listen to them and say, tell me, was there a mistake that you made today? Was there something that you pushed yourself so hard at today that you failed at? Like, I want to hear where you failed as well as where you succeeded, because that lets me know that you're trying really hard. And what did you succeed at? You know, like, I never had those conversations growing up. I don't know if you did.
No, I didn't, but I do have it with my kids. So for as long as my kids can remember, I am that mother. At dinner, I would always ask, you know, so what did you learn today? And the days that they would come and say nothing, and I say, you know what? You learn something every day, except the day you're going to die. So after that, when they're like, oh, nothing, I'm like, oh my gosh, are you going to die today? And then, yeah, we laugh about it because you learn something every day. You laugh every day. Yeah. You help someone every day. You failed every day, and you won every day.
Yeah. And if you're not kind of pushing yourself, that's, you push yourself to failure and you learn from that. One of my friends, and she's just the best teacher. I was sitting in her classroom. I was helping her do something. And one of the kids said, oh, Mrs. MacGyver, I made a mistake. And she said, no, you didn't. You made a learn. What did you learn?
Oh.
And I love that, you know, so now I kind of, when I see that, and I know it's corny for anyone who's listening, but it's true. You didn't make a mistake, you made a learn. And if you keep making those same mistakes, well, you're not learning. And so you need to look at it a little bit differently.
Yeah, and like, so I'm a linguistic geek, you know, so yes, learning and mistake is completely different. And before we were talking about, you know, somebody who wants to provide for their family, one thing that I also play around with a lot with my clients is it important or is it relevant?
Oh, okay.
And understanding the language that we use reframes everything, because earning an income is important, but is it relevant to how I want to be remembered? And usually, very often, it's not. It's like answering all your emails is really important, but is it really relevant? No, it's not. So being intentional today allows me to leave the legacy that I want to live. And in the meantime, I enjoy the ride.
Yeah. Yeah.
We were talking before we started recording, and I'd like to bring this up because I thought it was such a beautiful, when you were talking before of when somebody is at the end, what do you say?
Yeah. So, you know, one of the things people want to know that they're remembered positively. No one, I can't imagine anyone saying, yeah, I want to be remembered for all those times I lost my temper and told people, swore at them. No, you know, they want to be remembered for the gift that they gave you. And so if you have the gift, and it really is a gift to be with someone towards the end of their life, talk to them about the things that you remember, even if they're like kind of funny. You know, I was saying that sometimes it's like, do you remember when you used to do this? And, oh my God, you used to drive me nuts. Now, when I look back on it, I always think this is what you were trying to teach me. Mm-hmm. So let them know the legacy that they left you and some of the memories. So, you know, with one of my uncles, one of the things that I remembered about him was he was always the one that when I stayed with my grandparents and he was younger, if you lost a tooth, he would always be the one to remember and put the quarter underneath your pillow. He'd take the tooth away and like, I wasn't really asleep, but it was such a special memory because he was just such a sweet guy. Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of people think that it's the huge, big things that people are remembered by. It's the small acts of kindness that are usually remembered, or the things that brought people joy. And at the end of their life, those are the things that if you're talking to them, remember the stories, talk to them about things that they did, talk to them about all of the things that you're going to remember that you had a fun time doing. And the other side of that is we probably all have experienced someone who has had someone really close to them die.
Mm. Yeah.
And one of the things that happens is that a lot of their friends leave them because they don't know what to say. And I can't tell you how many people I've talked to who've said, I felt like I not only lost one of the most important people in my life, I lost half my friends who just took off and didn't do anything or say anything. And I know that the reason that happens is not because they're heartless, it's because they don't know what to say. So for anyone listening, here's what you say. I don't know what to say. I can see how much pain this is in, and I just want you to know how much I care about you. This is so difficult for you. And if you're not with him, say, I'm not there. If I was, I'd just put my arms around you and give you a hug. I want you to know that I care about you. And then if you want to do something, I used to jokingly say that my mom must have had a death cookbook. She knew what casserole to make if someone died. So, you know, if it was your spouse that died, hell, you got the whole meal. You got appetizers, you know, main course, salad, dessert, you got the whole meal. But if it was just, you know, someone that you liked, you might have gotten a square or a casserole. So, you know, do that. Make something for them. Or give them a meal so that they don't have to cook for a while. One person I know wrote and said, okay, I know no one wants to do laundry right now, so I am going to drop off a big garbage bag and I want you to put all your laundry in it. And I'll pick it up and I'll return it to you clean and folded. It can be something, if they have a dog, walk their dog for them.
And this is legacy.
Yeah.
For both. Yes, we're alleviating some responsibilities for the other person, but also that is how they will remember us.
Yeah.
And we will remember how we contributed, how we served, how we helped in moments where it is needed.
Yeah.
Maybe not important to do the laundry, but then it's really relevant.
It is, isn't it? You know, it's those small things. So instead of saying, well, if there's anything I can do for you, please let me know, which is just such a cop-out because a person who's going through grief just doesn't have the capacity to call up and say, oh, by the way, can you come and do my laundry? They're not going to do that.
Not going to happen.
So just sit in this moment and make a list of all the things that you need to do during the day. And if it's, you know, and then just take one of them that you can do. Don't, you know, like do it joyfully and do it from your heart, and take one of those tasks and say, have you got someone who's walking the dog? Because I'll come every day at this time and take the dog for a walk, or I'll come at this time, I'm going to drop a casserole off. Or if you've got kids, I'm going to pick up the kids and take them to school. You know, like there's so many little things, the day-to-day things that you can do that if you don't know what to say and you're someone who is more comfortable doing, then do something.
Yeah. And it's not, It can be and.
Yes.
You can be kind and be of service, you know?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And coming back to even the person who's doing the act of kindness, it gives us purpose and we're building our legacy.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and as the saying goes, what goes around comes around.
Yeah. Yeah. And at the end of it, I don't, like you, I think we're alike. At the end of, I want people to say that I was kind and that I brought more value to the world. And my legacy was one of love and kindness. And if I do that, then I need to be able to say that, well, I'm living it.
I'm living it to be able to give it, to be able to leave it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's how we all make our small dent in the universe.
Yeah, I think so too. And doing things like going to Costa Rica and living life large.
Of course, that's what we do, you know? If people want to know more about you, what you do, and there's so many, even business contexts where I can see this having that as a beautiful conversation with clients, where can people find you on the web?
Well, I have a website, which is souljourneydoula.com, so they can go there. Or my name is Lea Brovedani, and I'm sure that you'll have that spelled out at the end of this, or they can give me a call. If you go to my website, the first consultation, if you need my services, if your family is going through grief, if you've been given a terminal diagnosis and you're freaking out and you just need to figure things out, I can help you with the plan so that you can have peace of mind as much as you can have. But, that is something that happens, and I can ease your mind and help you with some of those plans. So there's a free consultation. I can tell you what I can offer. We can do the best 3 months and create a plan so that you know that everything leading up to it. I don't do wills, but if you need a lawyer, I could probably,
Yeah, that's it. And and since we're talking entrepreneurs, so yes, entrepreneurs themselves, but also if your client is going through.
Yes.
Like, how great way to also help a client being relevant in a moment that's really important.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really, I'm part of a death positive movement, and not that encouraging death, but being able to talk about it so that people aren't hiding. It's like I said at the beginning, being as silly as saying, well, the baby's going to come anyway, so I'm not going to do anything. Well, yeah, death is going to come, but wouldn't it be better if you actually knew how it was going to happen and who was going to surround you? And I think that makes a huge difference.
And going out on top.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much for accepting my invitation. This is such a deep conversation, such a profound conversation. So in the book, in there, I mentioned the top 5 regrets of the dying, which is a book for me that had a great impact, because we're all walking towards one of those regrets. Now, what do you want to do about it? That is how we change things, because whatever you're doing today is either contributing to the legacy you want to live or against the legacy that we want to leave. That's it. There's no other option. And when we start planning our death, we start planning our life. And that's where we see that so much more is possible. Thank you for being there week after week, and I'll see you next Tuesday.